Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle, and as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session. Miss Avery Lind, thank you so much for being with us on Camp Chaos. You have obviously lived through what no child should ever have to live through, but you've turned your sadness into something really beautiful. You lost your mom at a very young age. So we want to start by learning who your mom is and her through your eyes.
Yeah, so my mom's name was Holly. She was raised in a small town in New Jersey called Denville. Like all my family lived there. I love Denville. It's just this quaint little town. Her and my dad had met in kindergarten, so they'd known each other their entire lives. They were high school sweethearts. Both of their families had kind of like grown up together. And it's just kind of like it was always Keith and Holly kind of growing up. It was just all throughout high school. So then going into college, they kind of like went their separate ways. That was kind of their deal for college. Just kind of have fun, do what they need to do. But then obviously fate kind of brought them back together. And then they moved to New York and had me. Obviously along the way, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, which was, I think, really difficult for everyone just because even like my father's family, like my mom felt like a child to them. She was like an extension of their family. So I think that was hard on everyone, but everyone had high hopes.
How old was your mom when she was diagnosed with cancer?
I believe she was in her 20s.
God, that's so young.
Like mid-20s.
And what's wild is it was a pediatric cancer,
Yes,
right?
it was a cancer typical in children. So she was actually in like a children's sector of the hospital when all this was going on. So obviously like I wasn't there while this was all happening, but just hearing from my dad, like certain stories, I know that it was hard for her, obviously, but one of her kind of like takeaways from having cancer was like, if all of these children can do it, like I have to put on a happy face and do it. Because like even though it was like killing her inside and she was like obviously like beyond scared and like my dad was scared and they just did not know what was to come in the future, I think that her biggest takeaway was like seeing all of these other children going through it and was like, I have to put on a good face for them just to
Be an
be a role
example.
model.
Yeah, I was going to say to be an example, but it's also like when either of us have walked through chalk for whatever reason, small mundane reason, you realize, oh my God, people are here with cancer. Children are here with cancer, not just people.
Yeah.
And that's something that no child should ever face. So I'm sure for your mom being someone in her 20s, it's like, gosh, I have to be strong for these kids. I'm like, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I know your dad tells a story that people were coming from everywhere trying to study her case because of how rare it was that somebody in their 20s had this pediatric cancer. Do you remember what cancer it was?
I don't know the exact name. It was in her spine though. She was
spinal.
paralyzed.
Okay. So paralyzed, but not until after birth, correct?
Not until after birth.
Okay. So she was told she could never get pregnant.
Yeah.
Pregnancies,
out the window.
And
obviously
say goodbye
like,
to those dreams of becoming a mother.
Yeah. Like growing up, I'm like my grandma would tell me about how like all my mom wanted to do was be a mom. Like that was her goal, was to be a mom. And it was always like, oh, like she'd have her dolls. She'd always be like having like taking care of something, like so ready
maternal.
To be a mom. And so I think that was probably the most like devastating thing. But like hearing from like my grandparents and my aunt and my dad, it was like the miracle baby where you're just like, oh my gosh, because they just kept saying, you're not going to get pregnant. You're not going to get pregnant. You're not going to get pregnant. My mom was like, there's no way. Like I have to be a mom.
And then sure enough.
Exactly.
Does your dad ever talk about the moment when they found out that they were pregnant with you? Just like the shock because they didn't think that it could happen?
That's a great question. I feel like normally like I have like some stories like in my head that he'll like tell. I'm trying to think.
Well, and your dad is such a storyteller. Your dad is a close friend of ours.
He's so good at telling
He's like,
them.
I like say he's a politician. Like
He
he's
is.
just so good at telling
Plus, you're a
stories.
jerker. I'm like, how are you so good at this?
He really is. But I know that when he tells the story that it was like her dreams were coming true of having a baby.
Yeah.
And so obviously a rough pregnancy, being able, like, did she have to stop chemo during that time? I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
So chemo stops, treatment stops, everything's
Well,
about
everything was changed.
everything changes because you have a baby. I mean, you can't even
Exactly.
take over-the-counter
Tylenol.
medication
No.
when you're
Yeah.
pregnant, much less, really insanely strong drugs for cancer treatment.
Well, I think like in the process, like when they found out, it was kind of a matter of like, how do you want to go about this? Because being pregnant while like going through everything that she was going through and like having this extremely rare cancer is like an insane thing as it is. And on top of that, she had a really she had like scoliosis, like really bad scoliosis. So I know that played a factor in everything. And it was a matter of like, how do we deal with this? And obviously my mother's response was like, I just want to have the baby. Like I don't care what happens. I just want to have the baby.
Ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, the ultimate sacrifice for any woman, but like especially Holly in this case where you have cancer and you're going through all this treatment and it's like your treatment stops to be able to be like, I'm going to become a mom.
Yeah.
So I know she was hospitalized during her pregnancy and had you early.
Yeah. I was supposed to be born December 15th and I was born October 24th. So I was in the NICU for a long time. We were in different hospitals. So I know it was a lot of like back and forth for my dad, constantly going back and forth. My mom was going back and forth in like an ambulance to come see me.
Oh.
So, I just think that it was a big sacrifice on both parts.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in New York City.
Yeah.
In the city.
Yeah.
I mean, where anything's hard to do.
Exactly.
Getting in a car is
like
hard,
it is
but-
impossible to get around and they were doing it.
Wow. Okay, so when your dad tells a story, he always says, like, I took Avery home carrying my baby and I carried my wife because she was no longer walking, leaving the hospital, which is so heavy. And like to think about that, it's like you leave the hospital. We've done it 5 times between the two of us, like with a baby. And you're like, how am I going to take care of this little person? And then you're going home without your partner having full capabilities and being able to walk. So once you guys got home from the hospital, how was that? I mean, I know through your dad's lens, but was it like he was taking care of both of you?
Well, he was like, he was genuinely like super dad. That is like the best way I could put it, because being a 30-year-old in New York, like it is insane on Wall Street. That's a lot of pressure as is, while having to balance a wife who has cancer and a newborn baby. So I can't even imagine the amount of stress that he was under. But I feel like my dad's response to stress is like, keep working harder. So I think it was from like what I've heard, I can't even imagine the struggle it would be to balance home life and work, just like trying to make a name for yourself in this huge industry while also like balancing everything you have going on at home. So I think my dad's response was to just kind of make my mom feel like a princess, like a queen. Anything that she like wanted, anything that she needed, it was like his goal to just be able to provide it for her.
I know. I'm like going to cry and I'm like having to look away because I'm like, I'm going to lose it right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry.
I know.
But I think that was his goal, was to just make her feel on top of the world, because obviously like she had so much going on. But I think that my grandparents were a huge help, just to like be around and to be there and to kind of be like the day-to-day support that my mom needed, because obviously my dad couldn't be home all the time. Just because like he was obviously having to pay for like a newborn baby who's in the NICU for months on end. I can't even imagine how much money that was, and having to pay for like a lot of cancer treatment. And obviously he's really young, so I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think you think as your parents of like, oh, they always had it figured out. I can give you the roadmap. We still don't have it figured out in your mid-30s. Like everyone's just doing the best that they can.
Just like scraping it together.
Yeah, totally. And just like, flying by the seat of your pants half the time. So seeing what he did and like you having that memory of him is so beautiful. And he earned that, of course. I mean, he really was probably dad and mom in a lot of ways for you, not only at that point, but then in your entire life. So your mom passed away when you were 2.
Yeah.
Do you have any memory of her?
Not really. I think it's one of those things where I've seen pictures and videos and I'm kind of like, oh, that's my
bring it back,
memory.
yeah.
And it's like,
You cling on to that.
exactly.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you have that memory.
You're like, oh, see, I was there.
Exactly. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward, here we are into what you've turned grief into something so beautiful. I can't imagine it's always been that way for you. You know, I think after you lose somebody, you don't just lose them in that moment and go through like a 3-5 month, whatever stage of grief. You keep losing them at all of your firsts. And when you go to kindergarten, when you're going to your first dance, when you have your first boyfriend, when you're having girl drama, like I think about it. And I know Taylor and I were both extremely close with our moms. Like I can't imagine losing my mom and the thought of having no one to go to. I know you've had your dad, but how was that in your childhood?
Well, my dad always tells this story of like, we were at a birthday party and I guess I had gone up to him and been like, Dad, like, you're the only dad here. Like, it's all moms. And I can't even imagine like how that was for him, but he's always kind of been like my rock in a way. I don't know. I think I've always looked up to him and just been like proud of everything that he's accomplished. So I think like, obviously I know he's very proud of me, but I hope he knows like I'm beyond like proud of him and everything that he's done, because as much as I feel like he's seen me grow up, I've also seen him through a lot of like different stages in his life. Even when I don't think I was even really thinking about what he was going through, I'd notice it. So,
well, and now as probably a young adult, you look back and think of like, wow, Dad, you did so good.
yeah.
And like always stayed so strong for me,
All the
probably
time.
even when you were like crumbling inside.
Yeah.
I mean, he carried himself, I'm sure, with grace. And, you know, he's Mr. Congeniality. He can walk in
Exactly.
any room and make friends. He'd probably love sitting in a room full of women now.
He would.
being the only dad. He's like, oh, Avery, this is
I
fine.
got this.
No, but I think that's so beautiful what you said. And I know how proud he is of you. When you go into high school, what does that look like of not having a mom?
I think it's definitely different. I think I've lived with it for so long, so it's not as new anymore, but it'll always be different to see my friends' moms interact with them and like see their relationships. Obviously, I have my stepmom, Stephanie, and I love her to pieces. She's an amazing person, but it's just different. And I think Stephanie will like always be an important person in my life. And I love Stephanie. And I love that she has Landry and we'll be able to have that like relationship with Landry. And
Yeah,
I
and she
love
gave you a
watching
sibling.
them. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love my brother.
Well, trust me,
Wouldn't
you
trade
could
that for
have
the
had a
world.
step monster and you got very lucky to
I
have a
did get
beautiful
very lucky.
stepmother. She's fun and she's beautiful and she loves you so much. And I think that that is like the beautiful life that they've created for you and for your half brother. It's like, that is just your brother. Landry is your brother. The cutest. And it's like what they've built together is so beautiful. So I've always felt like I'm pretty in tune with my body, but as a mom, I realized I couldn't just keep guessing. I wanted to know what was really going on inside. That's why I joined Function Health, and it has completely shifted how I think about my health. Function gives you access to over 160 tests that look at everything: your hormones, your thyroid, your heart, your liver, inflammation, even toxins and nutrient levels. It's way more than just your standard checkup, which, by the way, only covers about 19 biomarkers. With Function, I finally got a full picture of my health, not just what's fine, but what could be optimized. One thing that's really stood out to me, I saw exactly how stress was impacting and why I've been feeling a little bit more drained and sluggish and fatigued than usual. It gave me a real insight about how I can start supporting myself better, especially in the nonstop season of motherhood. And Function doesn't just push supplements or prescriptions, it's clear, unbiased data so you can make an empowered decision. So it's $4.99 a year and it includes 2 full rounds of testing. These same tests could be up to $15,000 through traditional routes. And right now, you can get up to $100 off your membership by going to functionhealth.com/campchaos. But hurry, it's only the first 1,000 listeners. That's functionhealth.com/campchaos. Come take control of your health with me. I promise you will never regret it.
Okay, you've heard us rave about ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. I have super exciting news. Their team just released another product to help get more fiber into your diet without changing what you eat. Fiber diversity supports a balanced gut microbiome, yet only 5% of Americans get enough fiber in their diet. If you're like me, it's probably because it's really hard to do. That's why I started using ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber probiotic drink mix every day. The PhD microbiologists over at ZBiotics understand that 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. So they genetically engineered a probiotic drink mix called Sugar to Fiber. Sugar to Fiber turns sugar in the foods I eat into a prebiotic fiber called leave-in fiber. It's really hard to get leave-in from a typical diet, and it helps to improve the amount and diversity of fiber my body receives. I started drinking ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber because I like having a way to get closer to my daily recommended dose of fiber without needing to change my diet. It's super easy. Every day I just put a pack of Sugar to Fiber in my morning water, and I just love knowing I'm supporting my gut health with this routine. I think I've said it before, but gut health is super important to me, and we've talked about it on this podcast. That's why I'm adding ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber to my daily routine this summer. It's a really easy change to make, and it helps ensure that I'm getting the diversity of fiber my body needs. So go to zbiotics.com/camp and use code CAMP at checkout for 15% off any first-time orders of ZBiotics probiotics. ZBiotics has a 100% money-back guaranteed, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, which you won't be, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode.
So I have a really quick question. Do you remember was there a first moment that you opened up to somebody about the grief of just not having your mom around? Or did you talk to any friends, or did your dad help, try to do resources for you and send you to therapy? Was there a moment where you were able, because it's a lot to hold, even though you were only 2, it's still a lot to go through life without a mom and just trying to figure it out. And I know that your dad is obviously such a rock for you, but there's still something about not having your mom.
Yeah. Growing up, my dad had set me up with every resource possible. It was a lot. I was constantly, I feel, surrounded by adults. So it was a lot. I had therapists. The one therapist that I had was actually a friend of my mom's. So I think that helped just because I had a personal one-on-one. She knew who I was talking about. So I appreciated that. But overall, I feel my family, back home, my grandparents have always been my biggest supporters, specifically my dad's mom. Actually, I go to her about everything. Any problem I've ever had, I'll sit down and she's just spill it, lay it all out. That's what I'm here for. So she's been my best friend since I was little. I'd go to her house every weekend and just cry, laugh, we'd shop, we'd bake. It was she was a huge, and has been a huge role model for me. Even now, if I have problems with friends or with school or just stress, she's the person I go to.
It sounds like she filled an unimaginable void that nobody could ever fill, but it's a really close second as having your grandma step in and be that person.
Exactly. And also my mom's mom, I feel I've learned, and my aunt, my mom's sister, I've learned about my mom through them. That's how I know my mom, is by listening to their stories, how she grew up, what she was what she liked to do, what she liked to buy. She was the person, my mom was always the person who would go to the store, and if she liked something, she'd buy it in 4 different colors.
Oh, I love that.
I know that.
Oh my God.
Exactly. I know that from my aunt and my grandma, and I just...
You're I got to carry on that legacy when we go shopping.
Yeah. But I just think that without them, they've made me feel close to my mom, even though she's not here, they remind me that she is here.
Yeah, always. And I'm sure for them, you live, it's her living on through you. I mean, you are such a big part of her. So middle school is got to be the hardest time in a girl's life. Your hormones, your period, girl drama, boy drama. We are, adolescence is a little bit behind you, and it's welcome to being a young adult.
Yeah.
During that time, you met Sophia, who
did.
had also lost a parent. And I want to hear about your bond that you guys developed through that, and now what you guys have created.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, the transition into middle school is tough, especially considering I was moving from New York to California. And I had gone to an all-girls school, was really sheltered. It was a really different environment compared to what my new school is like. And
I could only imagine.
yeah.
No kidding.
Welcome to Orange County.
I know. I think the transition was a lot, but Sophia was one of those people who just made me feel right at home. She had also moved to California. She was a little bit younger. She had moved from, I believe,
Memphis,
Tennessee. Yeah.
Look at me doing my
Yeah,
research.
you know. I was about to say Tennessee, but
yeah, that is Memphis,
I was
Tennessee.
like, I couldn't remember the exact spot, but you know more than I do. So, yeah, I met her and it was kind of like an instant bond. She was just constantly a happy face. She's a hard worker. She's determined. She is truly a really good person. And I think we had just kind of hit it off. She had lost her dad at age 5. And I think that there's not a lot of people who understand what it's like to lose someone when you're young. So I think we automatically kind of had that bond of like, we're similar, like you get it.
Yeah.
No matter if like she lost her dad, I lost my mom, it's still like you lost a parent, and it's something that not everyone understands. So I think that it was nice to have that relationship where I was like
you get me.
You understand.
Yeah.
So I feel like that had always kind of like brought us together, and we're kind of similar in the way that we handle school and we handle friendships. It's very like,
it's almost like your mom sent her to you. It's like, here
Yeah.
you go. You need this friend.
Yeah.
You guys will do great things together.
And I'm grateful for everything that we've done together. So our friendship, like I said, started in middle school. And that's kind of how Lemons Lemonade started. She had actually worked on a workbook throughout middle school, which is amazing, with tons of arts and crafts and all of these like coping techniques for grief. It is truly an amazing book. So from there, we had kind of joined forces and we're like, look, like we want to put this through together, just because even the two of us, it is a lot to, even with the two of you, I can't even imagine everything that you have to do for this. But with Lemons Lemonade, it is a handful.
Well, and you're a full-time student and full-time volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on. So you guys created Lemons to Lemonade.
Yes.
Which the name is so cute. I mean, how could it not be?
Cute.
We're
Oh
wearing
my
yellow in honor of you. I'm like, Taylor, bring yellow. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. But Lemons to Lemonade. So last year was the first year of a grief camp.
Yes.
And tell us what that means.
So Lemons Lemonade is about turning the sour bitterness of grief into sweet lemonade. And we're kind of hoping to give these children a community. Because even growing up, I think, like I said, I was constantly surrounded by adults. I know Sophia had a really big support system and had a lot in Memphis that she didn't have here as for like grief support and like other children that were kind of a community. And I think that changes a lot, having that sense of community. So we wanted to join forces and make that community for children here, because even when we'd both first moved, I feel like it was kind of that sense of like, do they have that here? Because even though Orange County is such a huge place, it is really like such a diverse community. We did tons of research and there really is nothing like Lemons to Lemonade.
Wow.
So I thought that was insane.
Yeah, that is
Well,
really crazy.
yeah, but also like you guys being your age, thinking of something like this, turning your sadness into this is incredible. But I think what's even more incredible is like what you will be doing for other kids who are having gone through the same horrific thing that you guys have been through. Because like you said, like they're, of course, being surrounded by adults is one thing, but like to be able to look up to someone or talk to someone who's closer to your age, who has been through exactly what you have been through. Because I was just listening to a podcast and you can relate to this now, but they basically said grief is a language and you don't know it until you've been through it. And so like, I can't understand grief the way that you can and the way that you can, but you two can in a different way. And so like for you to be able to give that to younger kids is incredible. And I mean, the workbook is one thing, but like to be able to go to camp, and I'd love to know like what grief camp is or like what it entails and what kids can get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Lemons Lemonade is a week-long camp. It's just during the day. This year it'll be from 9 to 2. It's the week of the June 16th to the 20th. And we host it at St. Margaret's, which is where I go to school. Beautiful campus. They have been so like accommodating and they're just genuinely an amazing school. But primarily what we try to do is keep it fun. We try to keep it light because grief in itself is a really heavy thing. Obviously, we have counselors there, trained people just to supervise the whole thing, because I understand for a parent why it's scary to let your kid go to something like that, because even my dad, I can't imagine how protective he was over the whole situation. It's a scary thing to watch your kid go through. So obviously that's one of our top priorities, is just to make sure that everyone's having fun and everyone's safe. But primarily we try to keep it uplifting. Lots of arts and crafts. That's like our main purpose, is to channel what you're going through and to express that through art, because it's hard to use words, especially as a kid. It's hard to express what you're feeling when you don't know what you're feeling.
Right.
So we try to channel what you're feeling into art. We do a lot of, some examples would be memory boxes. You decorate these boxes. We have these cute little yellow boxes, and it's kind of meant to, like, you can decorate it in any way you want. Sophia and I typically do it. I made one for my mom. She's made one for her dad. And it's just to put your memories in there. Like, I have, Sophia has stuffed animals in hers. I have pictures of my mom and I have one of my mom's t-shirts that's in there. It's just kind of like to hold all of your memories, to be like this safe space.
Wait, can I come?
Yeah.
I'm like, Avery, clear the calendar for the third week of June. I'm going.
Yeah. Wait, I'm just so impressed. You're 16 years old.
Yeah.
And you have made all of this happen. Like, that is insane.
It's amazing.
I just remember being in high school, not being able to like know where my next class was, let alone like
match an outfit. You're like, does this look okay? Much less like do an art.
Putting something like this together, and like all the hard work you're doing outside of school. Has this been like therapeutic for you as well?
I think that this is obviously a huge task to take on, but I'm so grateful that me and Sophia have done it together. I can't even imagine doing anything like this alone. But it has been a really like therapeutic experience for me, because I get to create a connection with the children. I think as much as they look up to me and they like respect me and are grateful to have me, I'm just as grateful to have them, because they're teaching me so much. I'm kind of seeing what I went through in their eyes, and just being able to form that bond. It's really I can't even put it into words how great it feels to like earn the trust of a kid who has gone through hell and back.
Well, it's almost like you're healing a part of your childhood and like meeting them of like, oh my God, I see you at this age and how vulnerable you are and how scared you must be. And like you working with these kids could be almost like you're healing yourself through that.
Yeah.
Like, let me give you a hug, my little younger self.
Yeah.
A hug.
It's like they always say, like, if you could go back to your younger self, but it's like you're doing that over and over again when you're meeting all these kids. What ages are you guys accepting campers?
Our age range is typically like 5 to 13. Obviously, if a kid is 4.
Young.
Exactly. Yeah. I think one of my biggest takeaways from last year was that the diverse age range works so well, because not only do these little kids look up to the older kids there, but the older kids end up forming these amazing connections with the little kids. And it's amazing to see how those two age ranges really work together.
Yeah, you think like, oh my gosh, here's this 8-year gap of like, what would they have in common? But losing a parent, I'm sure is like, I mean, like after I lost my dad, it's like, and I lost my dad at 35, not 2 years old. Like I can't imagine going through my life without a parent. But it's like you were saying earlier, like it's like, oh, I get it so much more now.
It's a language that like you're just like,
yeah,
understood.
Totally.
Do you, because last year was the first year of grief camp, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of returning campers that are coming back?
We do, actually. It's amazing. And just in general, like seeing the people that have been like flooding in. Last year we had, I think, 9. It's like a very intimate space. This year we have 23 signups, which is great. I think because we've even received emails from parents being like, we would love our children to come to this, but they're just nervous, which is totally understandable. It's like I was an only child until like 2 years ago, and I understand going into things alone is beyond scary, especially something like a grief camp. But I think that what a lot of like parents don't realize, or it's like not necessarily like a parent, is how open like the whole community was last year. Like it genuinely was an amazing bond that formed. Like I was talking about the age thing. There was this one boy who was like pretty quiet, and I had kind of like, me and Sophia obviously like talk with everyone, but
You're
I
the
think
leaders,
Sophia would gravitate towards certain kids and I would gravitate towards certain kids and just try to make them feel comfortable, like a friendly face. And I had been talking with this one boy and I was like, this one kid, like he's so much younger than you. I think he would really appreciate if you could just like be his friend, just talk with him. I was like trying to build the bond. It is amazing to see like how these kids just so quickly like interact and like form that connection.
Well, and it's a connection that they could probably have their entire lives, not just like in that 1 week and then leave their separate ways. Like these are friendships that they're developing for life now.
Yeah, like we had received countless emails after being like, when's next year's? Like, we're ready.
That's amazing.
Well, because what you guys are doing is creating a resource that maybe wasn't there before, especially you having looked back when you were younger. Like this would be a perfect thing for someone who's went through what you went through. Like to create a resource like this is amazing. And I'm sure there's a lot of kids, unfortunately, out there who have lost a parent and would love something like this. And we would love to direct anyone that we know. We have a whole community of moms here. Just like you never know who knows another person who needs grief counseling or grief connection or whatever. How can people sign up or where can they learn more about Lemons to Lemonade?
So one of our goals is to genuinely make our brand and website as accessible as possible. We have an Instagram. We're working on an app right now. We have a website. We have an email. You can reach all of us through phone number, text, call, email, like constantly checking that. But primarily our website, I think, is where you'll get the most information. It's really easy to navigate. We have pictures, we have bios. You can read a little bit about the camp, about Sophia and I. I think it's just kind of the best view into our lives. And
it's lemonstolemonade.com.
Should be, yeah.
Is it?
It's also on our Instagram.
Okay.
So
now, if somebody's wanting to get involved and help monetarily, if somebody's like, okay, I don't have anyone directly, like I have thank God, no kids that have lost a parent or don't know anyone, but they want to help support, where can they do any donations or monetarily support the camp?
Yeah, that's also on our website.
On your website.
There's like a green button. Right.
We love a green button.
Click the green button.
There's the cash. There's the big dollar sign.
Button.
So what is your hope in the future for Lemons to Lemonade?
Sophia and I's hope is to just keep it going. I think to continue building and growing. Even now, we've hoped to host more like quarterly events. We hosted one with Miracle for Kids, and it was amazing. There were around, I think, 5 or 7 families, which in retrospect is kind of a lot because it's not just the kid. You have like the parents and their siblings and cousins. Just a lot of people were there, and it was really amazing. And I think those quarterly events are great for the people who can't come to the summer camp, because we've had people like, we've paid for hotels and gas to come to the summer camp just because we want to make it accessible. We want everyone to have a grief resource. It shouldn't be a restricted thing.
Right.
Yeah. So, it shouldn't be a privilege to have to get this kind of help.
Exactly. Yeah. So our hope is to continue expanding and making it more accessible. Sophia and I will obviously go to college in a couple years, and we hope to continue Lemons Lemonade throughout college. We hope to kind of pass the torch off to maybe another young girl or boy who hopes to kind of be a leader for all these children. But obviously, Sophia and I want to keep Lemons Lemonade going throughout our lives, because this is clearly something that every kid should have access to if they need it. Yeah,
and a connection now that you feel to all of these kids and all these campers that are going to come through for years to come, that you're going to create this amazing community. So somebody that's donating is obviously helping make the camp in that week so impactful, but also they could sponsor a kid that needs access to coming, that is not able to afford it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's beautiful.
So it is like amazing, just the community. That's like my biggest takeaway. Sorry, I've talked about that a lot, but it's like, just even looking back, like I will never forget that.
You should be so proud.
Yeah, like Lemons Lemonade is like our baby, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that like it's amazing like what it's growing into, and we can't wait to keep like pushing it forward.
Well, and I think it's, we're in our 30s. It's like we're building something. It's like, wow, that's so cool. I can't imagine doing that at 16.
No, it's amazing.
And you started at 15, actually. So let's even back up. You started at 15 years old. I mean, I was not thinking of like my entrepreneurial self of what could I create at age 15.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing and incredible what you guys are doing. And I think the best part is just that you really are helping other people because of the horrible trauma that you both went through. And I just think that's so selfless and one of the greatest things you can do. And it will like continue rewarding you for the rest of your life doing this. It's amazing.
Well, like I said, as much as it helps them, it also helps me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for every camper that we've had. They've taught me so much just about like life and like the grace that they carry themselves with at all of like these young ages. I'm like astonished.
That's so sweet.
It's amazing to watch.
Avery, I know your dad is so proud of you because he like when we were at your house, he was like could not stop talking. And I'm like, I'm gonna cry because you're talking so highly of her. But your mom must be just even more proud of you. You're
you.
such an amazing, amazing girl, and you should be so proud of yourself.
Yeah. You've definitely turned lemons into lemonade.
Yeah.
So. Check done. It's
That's
a perfect
the goal.
name. That's it. Thank you so much for being with us, Avery.
Thank you for having me. It
This
was amazing.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast. Until next time, campers.